Get away from my daughter. The man's voice roared down Maple Street like thunder. His boots slammed into the pavement like gunshots, eyes wild with fury. Maya Brown didn't even flinch. Her hands, shaky but determined, pressed rhythmically against the tiny chest beneath her. 27, 28, 29, she counted, her voice cracking under the strain. She had been sitting on a concrete stoop outside the corner laundromat, apron stained with flour from her shift at Rosie's diner. It was her only break before walking to the shelter 2 blocks down. She'd loosened her shoes, rested her head back, closed her eyes. Then came the sound, the shrill ring of a bike bell, a sudden clatter of metal, and the soft, unmistakable thud of a body hitting concrete. Emma Shaw had crumpled like a marionette whose strings had been cut. 7 years old, dressed in a yellow sundress, one sneaker still in the pedal strap, the other leg bent awkwardly. Her pink bike with glittery streamers lay on its side, wheels still turning. Mr. Hopper's, the stuffed rabbit in the basket, had been thrown onto the hot sidewalk. Maya didn't hesitate. She ran barefoot, her diner shoes forgotten, and dropped to her knees. Emma wasn't breathing. No pulse. Maya's hands moved automatically. She tilted the girl's head back, gave 2 rescue breaths, then began compressions. Hard, fast, like Miss Duval had taught at the shelter. Her arms burned, her heart raced, but she didn't stop. And then the roar. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" came the voice again, now closer, closer than any danger she'd ever felt. Maya looked up for a split second and saw him. Marcus Shaw, 6'2", broad, tattooed arms, Hell's Angels patch stretched across his leather vest. His face was a storm of panic and rage. "Sir, please, she's not breathing, she needs CPR." "Get off her," he snarled, shoving her shoulder. Maya fell sideways but scrambled back. She's not breathing," she cried out, crawling on her knees, hands returning to the child's chest. "Don't touch my daughter," Marcus bellowed, and before she could respond, his boot collided with her back. She gasped. The wind knocked out of her, but her hands kept moving. "Please, please. I know what I'm doing, just let me help her." Another kick. This time to her ribs. She cried out in pain but gritted her teeth. 30. She whispered through clenched teeth. Then 2 more rescue breaths. Marcus tried to yank her away again, gripping her by the arm. But Maya clawed her way back, tears streaming. Her voice cracked, barely audible. "If you stop me, she'll die." People had started to gather. A neighbor on her porch. A man across the street. But no one moved. Marcus raised his boot again, but then Emma gasped. Not a dramatic cry, but a wet, sudden intake of air. Her chest rose slightly. Then again, everything stopped. Maya froze, hovering above Emma, arms shaking, body bruised. Her lips parted in disbelief, and her hands finally fell away, hovering above the child, ready to resume if needed. Marcus stared, paralyzed. Emma's small body shifted slightly in his shadow. "Daddy," she rasped, confused, her eyes fluttering open. Marcus dropped to his knees, scooped her up. "I'm here, baby girl. I'm right here." Was Nelthers. She leaned into his chest, weak but alive. Maya sat back on the pavement, arms limp, eyes glassy. Her breath came in shudders, her back ached. But she smiled, just barely. Marcus looked at her. Truly looked his daughter alive in his arms. And the woman who made it possible sitting on the concrete, battered, breathless, and quiet. For a moment, shame flickered in his eyes, but Maya didn't wait. She stood, slowly, painfully, brushed the dust off her apron, picked up her backpack with trembling fingers, and walked away barefoot, her steps uneven. Nobody stopped her. Not Marcus. Not the crowd that had begun whispering. The pink bike still lay on the sidewalk, its wheels now still. Mr. Hoppers sat in the gutter, and Marcus Shaw, biker, protector, father, held his daughter tightly, trying to make sense of the miracle he had nearly kicked into the grave. The sun hadn't moved, but everything else had. The air seemed denser, as if the world had just inhaled and hadn't decided whether to exhale. Emma clung to her father's chest, her tiny fingers twisted in his vest. She was breathing, though still trembling like a leaf caught in a storm. Marcus cradled her gently, rocking slightly on his knees in the middle of Maple Street, unable to do anything else. His mind couldn't settle. Moments ago, he was ready to hurt that woman, Maya. He had hurt her. And now, with his daughter breathing in his arms, his stomach twisted with something far more painful than guilt. Shame. Around him, the world came back into motion. A door creaked open across the street. Mrs. Chin stepped out from her corner store, wiping her hands on her apron. A teenager on a skateboard rolled to a stop near the curb. Someone began filming with their phone, but no one said a word. They'd all seen what happened. And still, they stayed silent. Maya was gone. Marcus scanned the street but couldn't spot her. Just the broken outline of her, fading in his mind, the dirt on her cheek, the bruise already forming along her jaw, the torn strap of her apron fluttering behind her like a flag of surrender. He hadn't said thank you. He hadn't even asked her name. And now she was gone, swallowed by the same silence that had cloaked her before she stepped in to save his daughter. A police siren echoed faintly in the distance. Marcus glanced down at Emma. She was blinking now, her lips forming silent questions he couldn't yet answer. He kissed the top of her head, steadying himself. "Let's get you checked out, sunshine," he whispered. Then louder, to no one in particular, "She needs a hospital." Where? It took 6 minutes for the ambulance to arrive. 6 minutes of holding his little girl in his arms and realizing just how close he'd come to losing her. The paramedics were quick, professional. They asked questions, but Marcus barely responded. His answers were short, clipped. "She collapsed. I saw her fall. She wasn't breathing." He didn't mention Maya. Not yet. Not because he was hiding anything. He just didn't know what to call what had happened. Not when he was still reeling from it. He rode with Emma in the ambulance to County General, the same hospital where he'd broken a rib 2 years ago in a bar fight, where his club brother Johnny had gotten stitched up after taking a pipe wrench to the leg. But this visit was different. This time, he was just a dad. A terrified dad with blood on his boots and guilt under his fingernails. Emma was stable. The ER staff confirmed she'd likely experienced a sudden cardiac arrhythmia, a rare condition, undetected, but treatable. If no one had performed CPR in those crucial minutes, the nurse didn't need to finish the sentence. Marcus already knew how it ended. He stepped out of the room while they monitored her, sat on the hard plastic bench in the hallway, elbows on knees, head in his hands. For the first time in a long time, he felt small, powerless. He'd fought men twice his size, stared down cops, even taken a bullet once for a brother, but nothing compared to the terror of watching his child not breathe, and nothing compared to realizing he'd tried to stop the only person who'd kept her alive. A doctor approached, middle-aged, thin-rimmed glasses, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Shaw?" Marcus stood, instinctively squaring his shoulders. "Your daughter's stable. She'll need further tests, but she's awake. Asking for you." He nodded, swallowing hard. "Can I? Before I go in, that woman, do you know if anyone got her name? The one who did CPR?" "Well," the doctor frowned. "The paramedics mentioned someone was already performing compressions, but she wasn't there when they arrived." Marcus's chest tightened. "I need to find her. I'm sure the paramedics filed a report. Maybe there's a witness." "I don't want to wait for paperwork," Marcus said. His voice was even, but his eyes told a different story. "She saved my kid, and I kicked her." The doctor didn't reply, just gave him a slow, measured nod and returned to the nurse's station. Inside the hospital room, Emma sat propped up on pillows, an oxygen cannula in her nose and a small bear in her lap. Her voice was soft, but when she saw him, her eyes lit up. "Daddy," she whispered. He crossed the room in 2 strides, crouched beside her bed. "Hey, baby. You scared me half to death. I was riding, then my chest felt weird." "I know, but you're okay now. You're safe." Emma looked at him, puzzled. "Where's the lady?" Marcus blinked. "What lady?" "The one with the braids." She was crying but still helping. "I saw her right before everything went black." Marcus felt the lump in his throat rise again. He nodded. She was brave. Real brave. He stayed with Emma through the night. When she drifted to sleep, he sat back and opened his phone, scrolled through contacts, ignored the texts from his club brothers. Instead, he opened a notepad and typed 3 words. Find the woman. By morning, Marcus was back on Maple Street. Emma was in good hands with the nurses, and he had a mission. The sun was already climbing the sky, but the alley where it had all happened still carried a chill. He stood in the middle of the sidewalk where the bike had fallen, where Maya had knelt, where he had kicked her again and again and tried to picture her face. He remembered her voice, the desperation in it, the way she never stopped compressions, even as he attacked her. Mrs. Chin stood outside her store sweeping. He approached, slowly. "Morning, ma'am." She eyed him warily. "Morning. I'm looking for someone." "Young black woman. Braids. Diner apron. Might have come around here yesterday afternoon." Mrs. Chin paused, then resumed sweeping. "Don't know. She saved my daughter's life," Marcus said. "And I need to tell her." Mrs. Chin hesitated, her eyes softening just slightly. "Even heroes disappear when they get hurt." Marcus nodded once, lips tightening. "Then I'll find her, no matter what." The pink bicycle had already been taken home, but its ghost lingered on the pavement, in the scrape on the concrete and the silence of the block. Marcus Shaw turned toward the alley, jaw clenched, hands in fists. Somewhere out there, Maya Brown was hurting, and he'd be damned if she stayed invisible another day. If this story moved you, hit like and tell us where you're watching from. You might find someone in your own neighborhood watching with you. The scent of cut grass mixed with the faint bitterness of gasoline as Marcus walked up and down Maple Street. Morning sunlight reflected off windshields and bounced off storefront windows, but none of it reached the chill in his bones. He'd slept in Emma's hospital room chair all night, her small hand resting in his. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Maya's hands pressing down on his daughter's chest, and his own boots slamming into her back. Now he was a man on a mission, not the kind involving engines and leather. This was different, quieter. He wasn't here to intimidate or to protect turf. He was here to say 2 words he'd never said to someone like her before. "I'm sorry." He stepped into Chin's market again. The bell above the door jingled. Mrs. Chin looked up from behind the counter. "You're back. I need help," Marcus said plainly. Mrs. Chin pressed her lips together, thinking. "You asked the same question yesterday. I didn't ask it right." The silence between them stretched like drying linen. "She always comes alone," Mrs. Chin finally said. "Buys day-old bread, sometimes peanut butter. Doesn't talk much." "She have a name?" Marcus asked, hopeful. Mrs. Chin shook her head. "No credit card, no ID. Always pays in cash." She paused, then added, "But kind. Once gave a boy her sandwich. Didn't even hesitate. That tracked." Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. "She mentioned where she worked?" Mrs. Chin hesitated again. "Rosie's Diner, 5 blocks over, early shifts." That was all Marcus needed. He was already walking before she finished the sentence. Rosie's was one of those joints where the smell of bacon and burnt coffee clung to the walls. A red neon open sign buzzed in the window. Inside, the booths were cracked leather, the linoleum dull from decades of footsteps. Marcus stepped through the door and instantly felt every eye on him. Big man, leather vest, Hell's Angels patch. Not exactly subtle. A middle-aged waitress with graying hair and orthopedic shoes looked up from behind the counter. "We're full up for now." "I'm looking for someone," Marcus said. "Name's Maya. Young. Black. Braids. Wears an apron with flowers still on it." The waitress's eyebrows twitched. "Who wants to know?" "She saved my daughter's life yesterday," he said quietly, "and I treated her like garbage." The diner went silent. Forks paused in midair. The clatter of plates stopped. The waitress's expression shifted. Her voice lowered. "Maya left early yesterday. Came in with a busted lip and a bruised cheek. Said she slipped on the sidewalk." Marcus's stomach dropped. "She hasn't come back since," the woman added. "Didn't call. Just disappeared." "She have friends here?" Marcus asked. The waitress leaned forward. You really trying to find her? I owe her more than I can say. The woman studied him. Try the public library. She liked it there. Cool, quiet. Always had her nose in a book. Thank you, Marcus said, and meant it. The library was 3 blocks away. Marcus left his bike behind and walked. He felt too heavy for a machine. Too grounded by regret. The building was stone and brick, a relic of the 60 seconds, with faded banners promoting summer reading programs and literacy campaigns. Inside, it smelled like old paper and furniture polish. A librarian looked up as he entered, her gaze narrowing slightly at the sight of his vest. I'm not here for trouble, he said softly. I'm looking for someone. Her hand hovered near the phone. She's quiet. Comes here a lot. Young. Black. Braids. Name's Maya. Might have come in this morning. The librarian hesitated. You from the club? Marcus nodded. Yes. But I'm also Emma's dad. The woman blinked. Emma? The little girl who collapsed? She's alive because of Maya. A moment passed. Then the librarian said, Back left corner. 2nd floor. Next to the fiction section. Marcus climbed the stairs slowly, his boots making soft echoes. The 2nd floor was hushed. Rows of shelves stood like silent sentinels, and there she was. Maya sat curled in a tattered chair, legs pulled to her chest, a book open in her lap but clearly forgotten. Her braids were loose, one eye slightly swollen, her hands folded in her lap. She looked smaller here, fragile, a ghost sitting in the open. Marcus didn't approach. He sat down on the floor across from her, back against the nearest shelf. Not too close. Not looming. Just present. Maya saw him. Her body stiffened. She shut the book, held it to her chest like armor. I'm not here to hurt you, Marcus said gently. You already did. The words were soft, but they cut like a blade. I know, he whispered. I know. Neither of them spoke for a while. Dust motes floated in the sunlight, cutting through the window behind her. Somewhere downstairs, a copy machine hummed. Marcus reached into his bag, pulled out a brown paper lunch sack. Turkey and cheddar, apple, bottle of water. He slid it across the floor. I don't want charity, Maya said, voice low. It's not charity, he said. It's gratitude, from a father who damn near lost his little girl. She stared at the bag, then at him. You didn't even stop, she whispered. I begged you. I know. Marcus looked down. I saw someone I didn't understand, and I reacted like the worst version of myself. Why are you here? Guide. Because my daughter's alive, and I need to say thank you. I need to say I'm sorry. Maya didn't move. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't let the tears fall. You saved her, he said again. Even when I was hurting you, you saved her. She finally spoke. I couldn't stop. She reminded me of my sister. Before the system split us up, Marcus exhaled, deep and ragged. Can I do anything? Help you find somewhere better to stay? I'm fine. You're not. Maya paused. I don't trust bikers. I wouldn't either, Marcus replied. But I don't want anything from you except the chance to make things right. He stood up slowly, brushing his hands on his jeans. I'm staying at County General. Emma wants to thank you herself. When you're ready, come by. He turned, then stopped. My name's Marcus, he said, and I'm not walking away again. Maya didn't move for a long time after Marcus left. The brown paper bag sat untouched on the floor beside her, casting a small shadow under the fluorescent light. She stared at the last page of the book in her lap, not reading, just holding. Everything in her body still buzzed from adrenaline, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was something stranger, something unfamiliar. He found me. He sat on the floor like a man unarmed, brought food like a peace offering, apologized like he meant it. Nobody ever apologized to Maya Brown. She stood eventually, quietly tucked the food into her backpack, and slipped out the side entrance of the library before anyone else noticed her. The day was already warm, and the sidewalk seemed to stretch further than usual. Her ribs still ached with every step. By late afternoon, She found herself back in the same alley where she'd slept for the last 2 nights, behind an auto parts store that closed at 6 p.m. Her bed was a flattened refrigerator box, lined with 2 folded blankets she'd taken from the shelter weeks ago. It wasn't much, but it was hers, and right now, she needed the comfort of familiar misery. She ate the sandwich slowly, not because it was good, but because it was warm. She hadn't eaten since the bagel yesterday morning. The apple, she tucked away for later. Then, she curled onto her side and stared at the stars peeking between the fire escapes. Her fingers traced the tender spots on her ribs. Marcus had kicked hard, but his guilt felt harder. She closed her eyes, whispered a name she hadn't said in years, Naomi, and let the city's hum sing her into sleep. Marcus Shaw hadn't told anyone where he was going, not even the club. He returned to County General with a heavy step and a heavier mind. Emma was wide awake when he arrived, coloring a unicorn with pink and blue crayons in the hospital bed. "There's my girl," he said, trying to smile. She looked up and beamed. "Daddy, did you find her?" He paused. "Yeah, I did." Emma's eyes widened. "Is she okay? You said you yelled at her. You didn't hit her, did you?" Marcus's throat clenched. "Yeah, I did, baby. I thought she was hurting you. I didn't know she was saving your life." Emma blinked. "Did you say sorry?" "I did." "Good," she said, simply, returning to her drawing. He watched her for a long while, amazed at how easily children forgave what grown men wrestled with for years. The next morning, the rumble of a single motorcycle echoed down 8th Street. Maya sat upright in her alley, heart racing, eyes searching. Marcus parked beside the dumpster and climbed off slowly. His face was calm, guarded, like a man approaching a wild animal. In his hand, a brown envelope. "I figured you wouldn't come to the hospital," he said, voice steady. "I don't need your charity," Maya replied. "This isn't charity," he said, setting the envelope down gently on the crate beside her. "It's a lease agreement. Upstairs unit over the dry cleaners. Nothing fancy. But it's clean. Got hot water. You'll have your own key." Maya stared at him. "I paid for 6 months. You don't owe me a damn thing. I just wanted to make sure you had somewhere with a roof. Somewhere safe." She said nothing. He stepped back, hands raised like surrender. "I'll leave the key here," he said, pointing to the envelope. "You decide." Then he turned, started the bike, and disappeared into the morning sun. Maya didn't touch the envelope for nearly 10 minutes. But eventually, slowly, she opened it. Inside were 3 items: a key, a printed lease with her name already filled in, and a folded note in Marcus's handwriting. "You saved my daughter. Let me help you save yourself. Marcus." Later that afternoon, Marcus called an emergency meeting at the clubhouse. The place smelled like oil, whiskey, and sawdust, comforting in its own way. 23 men sat around a long wooden table, all in leather, all patched, all watching him. "She saved Emma," he said plainly. "CPR. On the street, while I was losing my mind." A few of the men exchanged glances. "I thought she was hurting her. Kicked her. Screamed. She never stopped trying to save my little girl." "Shit," growled one biker named Tank. "And she still kept going?" Marcus nodded. "I'm telling you right now, I'm putting her under our protection." "What's that mean?" someone asked. "It means she gets the jacket," Marcus said. "No patch yet, but leather. And a place at the table." "Oh, you want to bring in a civilian?" someone scoffed. Marcus raised a hand. "Not a recruit. A sister. A survivor. Someone who didn't run when she could have." Silence. Then a voice from the end of the table. "You give her the vest. You're saying she's one of us." "I know exactly what I'm saying," Marcus said. "And if anyone's got a problem with it, speak now." No one did. That evening, Maya climbed the narrow stairs of the dry cleaners building with the key in her hand. The hallway smelled faintly of starch and detergent. The door creaked when she opened it. The studio was small. 1 room, a twin bed in the corner, a wooden table, a microwave, a chipped bathroom sink. But it was clean, and it was quiet, and for the first time in years, it was hers. On the counter sat a folded leather vest, smaller than the others, new, with no patches, just the weight of protection, and a handwritten note. Welcome home, your brothers. Maya stood still for a long moment, the vest in her hands, then whispered aloud to no one. What the hell is happening? She wasn't sure if it was kindness, pity, guilt, or something else entirely. But for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid. Maya didn't sleep much that first night. She lay in the twin bed of the studio apartment above Caruso's dry cleaning, staring at the ceiling through shadows cast by the neon sign downstairs. It buzzed faintly, glowing red against the frosted window. Her ribs still ached from where Marcus had kicked her. But the pain wasn't what kept her awake. It was the silence, real silence. No sirens, no shouting, no other bodies shuffling on cots nearby. Just the low hum of the refrigerator and the soft ticking of the wall clock someone had left behind. It had been years since she'd slept somewhere with a lock that only she had the key to. Years since she could exhale without listening for danger behind the breath. She got up before the sun, stretched carefully, and padded barefoot across the hardwood. The room was small but solid, like it had survived some things and come out stronger. The chipped counter near the sink still had a half-used bottle of dish soap. The cabinet above held exactly one plate, one bowl, one mug. It was enough. She boiled water, steeped a bag of grocery store tea, and sat at the window with her knees tucked to her chest, watching the world blink to life. At 6:15, a delivery truck rattled past. At 6:30, the dry cleaner below clicked open its door. At 6:45, a man in a navy tracksuit jogged by, waving to the shop owner. Maya watched it all, not as an outsider for once, but as someone inside. A neighbor, almost. Someone with a mailbox. Later that morning, a soft knock sounded at her door. She opened it cautiously. Marcus stood there with a brown paper bag, no vest today, just jeans and a worn flannel shirt. He held the bag out like a peace offering. "Morning," he said. She raised an eyebrow. "Just some breakfast. Didn't think you'd had time to go shopping." Maya stared at him for a beat, then stepped aside. "You gonna stand in the hallway all day?" He stepped in quietly, glanced around the apartment. Nice place, better than a crate behind O'Reilly's. She gave a small smile despite herself. "You been asking around?" "Maybe." She took the bag, opened it slowly. Inside was a styrofoam box from Rosie's Diner, scrambled eggs, toast, and crispy bacon. Beneath that, a plastic container of orange juice. "Thank you," she said quietly. Marcus nodded, hands in his pockets. "You settle in okay?" She shrugged, still figuring it out. "Feels weird not worrying who's gonna steal your socks." He chuckled under his breath. "That sounds familiar." There was a pause, not quite awkward, just unsure. Finally, Maya said, "You didn't have to do all this." Marcus looked at her. "I did. I didn't know how to undo what I did in the street. But this, it's something." She didn't respond right away. "I'm not used to people looking out for me," she said. "Get used to it," Marcus replied. They stood in silence for a long beat. Then he cleared his throat. "Tonight, the club's meeting at the garage. Nothing serious, just food, stories, check-ins. You're welcome to come by, no pressure. I'm not a biker. You don't have to be. You're family now." That word sat in the air between them like a bird deciding whether to fly. Maya looked down at her vest hanging over the chair. "Why me?" "Because when everyone else froze, you moved. Because you didn't ask what she was worth. You just acted. That's what we value." "I'm not one of you," she said, softer this time. Marcus smiled faintly. "You think any of us started out knowing where we belonged?" By nightfall, the garage on 12th and Morgan buzzed with life. The door was rolled up halfway, revealing motorcycles lined like soldiers in a row. Grill smoke rose from the back lot. Laughter drifted through the air, mingled with classic rock and the scent of motor oil. Maya stood across the street in a hoodie and jeans, watching from the shadows. She clutched the leather vest in her hands. She didn't wear it yet, just held it like something sacred. She was about to turn back when she heard her name. "Yo, Maya." Tank, the giant with the beard like a grizzly bear, waved from the sidewalk, beer in one hand. "Thought you were too good to hang with us." Maya hesitated. then stepped across the street. Inside, the scene was surreal. Grown men in denim and leather, covered in tattoos, arguing about potato salad. Someone had brought lawn chairs, someone else brought ribs. Marcus stepped forward, took her by the shoulder. "This is her," he said to the room. Everyone turned. "This is the woman who saved my kid." For a second, the silence was thick. Then one by one, they nodded, grunted, raised beers. No clapping, no speeches, just quiet respect. Tank handed her a soda. "Heard you were tougher than Marcus." She smirked. "Heard right." Later that night, someone lit a fire pit out back. They sat around it, stories spinning like sparks into the air. Maya didn't say much, but she listened, learned, felt the rhythm of the group. The way they teased, protected, showed up. When she finally slipped on the vest, no one said a word, but she felt it, a weight across her shoulders. Not a burden, a belonging. Back in the studio, she hung it neatly beside the door, and for the first time in years, she slept straight through the night. The next morning brought rain. Not the soft, comforting kind, but a heavy, gray curtain that washed the streets clean and muted the city's usual clamor. From the window of her apartment, Maya watched the rivulets snake down the glass like the fingers of forgotten ghosts. Her first instinct was to stay inside, hidden from the world, but something stronger tugged at her now. Obligation, maybe, or curiosity, or the unfamiliar pulse of community. She dressed slowly, easing into the day. Jeans, black t-shirt, her new leather vest. No patches, but it meant something. It was a declaration. I exist. I belong. She hadn't realized how heavy invisibility was until someone stripped it from her. By noon, she was downstairs helping Caruso sort laundry into industrial-sized machines. The old man barely spoke, but he gave her nods of approval with each folded towel. Small gestures, big meaning. Just after 2 p.m., she stepped outside to take a break. That's when she noticed the black SUV parked across the street. Tinted windows, engine idling. Maya's stomach clenched. Her eyes flicked to the license plate, no front tag. In a neighborhood like this, an expensive SUV with no plates didn't belong. And it definitely didn't idle for no reason. She turned, walked casually back inside. But the unease followed her like smoke. Upstairs, she paced. Pulled the blinds closed. Her breath came faster than she wanted it to. Was it the system again? Child services? Someone from her past? Or worse, someone from Marcus's? She grabbed her phone. No missed calls, no texts. She hesitated, then dialed. He picked up on the second ring. "You good?" "There's a car, across from Caruso's. Been sitting there over 10 minutes. Make and color, black Escalade, no front plate. Is a greased ad." A pause. "I'm on my way." Marcus's bike roared into the block like thunder. He cut the engine before he was even off the seat and scanned the street. Still there. He approached the SUV slowly, carefully, his posture relaxed but ready. He knocked on the driver's side window. Nothing. He knocked again, harder. The window finally rolled down a few inches. A white man sat behind the wheel. Mid-40s. Suit jacket. Cold eyes. "Can I help you?" Marcus asked. "I'm just here to observe." "Observe what?" The man smirked. "That girl. Maya Brown." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You a cop?" "Nope. Private investigator. Something like that." Marcus stepped closer, his voice low. "You say her name again, you better have a badge or a death wish." The man's smile never wavered. "Interesting choice of company you've taken in, Mr. Shaw. You think the rest of the club would feel the same if they knew?" "Knew what?" "Where she came from." Marcus leaned in so close their noses nearly touched. "I know exactly where she came from, and unless you're here to thank her for saving a little girl's life, you've got 3 seconds to move this car." The man didn't blink. "People who come from nowhere tend to bring problems with them." Marcus's fist clenched, but he didn't swing. "Not yet." "Get the hell out of here," he said. The man smiled, rolled the window up, and pulled away slowly, tires whispering over the wet asphalt. Marcus turned to find Maya standing at the building's corner. Her arms were crossed, but her eyes betrayed her fear. "You know him?" he asked. "No, but he knows you." Maya hesitated. "People like him, they always know girls like me." Marcus stepped closer. "What does that mean?" "It means there's a file somewhere with my name on it," she said. "It means somebody's trying to scare me. Or scare you. I don't know which." Marcus didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, "Come with me, Ezzo." The clubhouse wasn't full, but there were enough members there to take notice when Marcus walked in with Maya at his side. He didn't say anything until they reached the back, where Tank was cleaning a carburetor and Ricky was stacking beer. Marcus turned, looked at Maya. "Tell them." She stiffened. "Tell them what?" "Whatever's coming. You can't fight it alone." Maya's jaw locked. Her hands trembled slightly. "I was in the foster system," she said, finally. "Bounced around. One home to another. Some good, most bad. I aged out and got forgotten. I've got a record. Petty theft. Trespassing. Resisting. Nothing violent. Just surviving." No one interrupted. "I've been followed before. Usually it's about something old. Some social worker checking in. Or someone from back then who thinks they still own a piece of me." "Anyone looking for you now?" Tank asked. "I don't know," she said. But that man wasn't just being curious. Marcus looked around the room. "We don't leave our own exposed. We don't even know who he was," someone said from the corner. "Then we find out," Marcus snapped. "We have friends in city records. If he's PI, we'll know. If not, well, we'll still know." Maya stood quietly. The fear didn't leave her face, but something else bloomed behind it. Trust. Not blind faith, but the kind built one act at a time. Marcus turned to her. "You're not alone anymore. Not here." She nodded once, slow. Outside, the rain began to taper off, but inside, the storm was just beginning. The next morning, Marcus stood in front of a rusted metal door tucked behind a record shop on the south side. It looked abandoned to most, but to those who knew, this was the back entrance to the Cage, an old data den used by the Angels when subtlety mattered more than firepower. He knocked 3 times, paused, then knocked twice more. The door opened just enough to reveal a pale face under fluorescent light. "Marcus," said the man inside. "Dusty," Marcus nodded. "I need a name." Dusty wore Coke bottle glasses and smelled faintly of printer toner and instant ramen. He stepped back to let Marcus in. The room was a cluttered maze of screens, towers, hard drives, and boxes of files. Dusty was a hacker from the 2000s, who never upgraded his wardrobe or his paranoia. "Sit," Dusty said, gesturing to a stool patched with duct tape. "Who we looking for?" Marcus pulled out a notepad and flipped to a sketchy description. White male, mid-40s, charcoal suit, drove a black Escalade. No front plate. Then he handed Dusty a picture still frame from a gas station security cam he'd gotten from Tank, who had connections with a retired beat cop. The SUV had been spotted parked on the same street 2 days in a row. "This guy," Marcus said. He was watching Maya. Quote, Dusty nodded. "What's her last name?" "Brown." "Maya Brown." Dusty raised an eyebrow. "You sure about this?" "She saved Emma," Marcus said simply. That was enough. Dusty typed, clicked, swore under his breath. Typed more. Dozens of Maya Browns in the system. Social, DMV, foster care, juvenile records. Start with juvenile. Dusty narrowed the search. Within moments, a profile popped up. Grainy mugshot. A list of misdemeanors. Foster history. Group homes. A placement in a youth detention center at 15 for property damage. Nothing violent. No family listed. Then Dusty clicked deeper. "Whoa," he murmured. "What?" Dusty turned the screen. Maya Brown was once placed in care under the name Maya Colburn, her birth name. Marcus leaned in. So? Colburn was the name of Judge Raymond Colburn. He presided over youth court until he retired 2 years ago. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "You're saying she was related to a judge?" "Looks like it. Biological daughter. Her file was sealed, unusual for low-risk cases. But here's the bombshell. Colburn gave up guardianship when she was 9, officially unfit parenting due to mental health strain. Off the record, rumors he sent her away after a scandal involving his late wife. Marcus clenched his fists. He discarded her. Dusty nodded. And someone doesn't want that story coming back. 8. Marcus stood. Print everything. I'll take it from here. Dusty handed him the manila envelope half an hour later. Inside, Maya's birth name, placements, sealed notes, and one more thing, an address registered to a private surveillance firm that often worked with retired government personnel, the same one that had leased the Escalade. That night, Maya sat on her fire escape with a cup of chamomile tea. The vest hung behind her on a nail, its presence comforting. Below, the city buzzed, unaware of her new fear. She hadn't seen the SUV again, but she could feel eyes on her. A soft knock at the door startled her. When she opened it, Marcus stood there with a rain-spotted envelope in hand. I found out who he is, he said. She stepped aside. He set the envelope on the table, pulled out the contents, and let her read. Her breath caught. Maya Colburn, she whispered. I haven't seen that name in 15 years. Why didn't you tell me? Marcus asked gently. Because it doesn't matter, she replied. He gave me up. Marcus didn't speak. She added. He was a judge. No one would have believed me anyway. Well, someone's watching now, Marcus said. That man in the SUV works for a private firm. And they're not just curious. They're trying to keep you in the dark. Why now? She asked. After all this time? Marcus hesitated. Colburn died last week. Maya froze. That man, he wasn't just watching you. He might be looking for something you don't even know you have documents. Memory. Anything that ties you back to a scandal. And they'll try to keep you quiet. Maya stood there, silent, her mind spinning. Marcus added, You don't have to face it alone. She looked at him. What do I even do with this? You start by owning it. This is your story, Maya, not theirs. Maya stared at the envelope again. The words, sealed custody transfer, made her hands shake. But she didn't back away. I want to see his grave, she said suddenly. Marcus blinked. What? Tuhez replied. I want to look him in the eye, even if it's just stone. He nodded. I'll drive you tomorrow. She reached for the vest and slipped it on. No, she said. We'll ride. Marcus smiled faintly. That's more like it. The next morning, under overcast skies and cool wind, 2 motorcycles rolled down Interstate 55 toward the hillside cemetery north of the city. Maya rode behind Marcus, her arms steady around his waist, her eyes forward. For the first time, she wasn't running from her past. She was heading straight for it. The cemetery was quiet, cradled between 2 gentle hills that rolled into the horizon like folded sheets. Wind moved through the pines, rustling dry leaves along the paths between gravestones. Marcus pulled the bikes onto a gravel turnout near the entrance and killed the engines. The sudden silence made the weight of their destination sink deeper. Maya swung her leg over the bike slowly. She wore her vest, zipped up tight, a black hoodie underneath. Her eyes scanned the field of gray markers, narrowing toward the far end where a group of newer plots gleamed under the pale morning light. You sure about this? Marcus asked quietly. No, she replied. But I need to see it. They walked side by side. The gravel crunched beneath their boots. Maya kept her hands in her pockets, fingers clenching and unclenching. Every step brought her closer to something she'd buried long before the man was dead. After 10 minutes, they found it. A polished granite headstone, freshly laid, still surrounded by a frame of damp soil. The name was unmistakable. Judge Raymond A. Colburn, 1949-2025. Beloved husband, defender of justice. Maya stared at it. The air around her thinned. She knelt slowly, ignoring the chill of the wet grass. He wasn't beloved, she said flatly. He wasn't even decent. Marcus stayed silent. He stood a few steps behind her, giving her space, presence, and nothing more. Maya traced the engraved letters with her fingers. He used to say justice was about balance, about rules, that a judge didn't care who cried louder, only who had the evidence. But he never looked at me the way he looked at his courtroom. I was the reminder that he'd made a mistake he couldn't rule out of existence. She glanced up at the sky, blinking away the sting in her eyes. He put me in a home with strangers who thought hitting was teaching. He never checked back, not once. And when I tried to get help, they said, "Your father is a respected man, Maya. Don't make up stories." Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. I slept in closets. Got locked outside in winter. Once, I stole a peanut butter sandwich and got 6 stitches when the foster dad shoved me into a door frame. But I still kept my mouth shut. Because I was the judge's daughter. Marcus exhaled behind her, his own fists clenched in quiet rage. Maya stood slowly. And now he's buried in a place like this. Quiet. Clean. Surrounded by lies. She turned to Marcus. "You think it's wrong? I don't feel anything?" "No," he said. "I think it means you survived." She looked back at the headstone. "I want to forget him." "You don't have to forget," Marcus said. "You just don't have to carry his shame anymore." A breeze moved through the trees again. The smell of damp pine and fresh-cut grass filled the air. Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out a photo, faded and worn. It was of her and a girl about her age. Arms around each other, grinning wildly with missing teeth. Naomi. Her sister. She laid the photo at the base of the headstone. "You lost the right to this part of me," she whispered. "But I'm taking it back." They left the cemetery without another word. Later that afternoon, Marcus brought her to the garage. The club was quiet, no music, no shouting. Just the hum of a TV in the corner playing an old western, and the smell of coffee brewing in the back. Tank and Ricky were hunched over a map on the pool table. But when they saw Maya enter, they straightened. "You good?" Tank asked. Maya nodded. "Better than I thought I'd be." "Good," Ricky said. "Because we found out more about that firm." Marcus stepped forward. "They're called Claymore Group. Ex-military, ex-Fed, handle hush contracts, surveillance, political cleanup, real white-glove dirtbags," Tank added. "Who hired them?" Maya asked. "Don't know yet," Ricky replied. "But one of their field agents filed a report 2 days ago, logged under public exposure risk." "The subject?" "You." Maya blinked. "What kind of exposure?" "They think you know something," Marcus said. "Or they think someone's going to dig into your connection to Colburn." "I don't know anything," Maya said, frustrated. "I didn't keep journals. I didn't see him after I was 9. "They're not worried about what you know," Marcus said. "They're worried about what you are proof. A living reminder that their man, their pillar of justice, had cracks." "They trying to bury me," she murmured. "Not if we shine the light first," Tank growled. Marcus looked her in the eye. "I've got an idea. But it's your call." She straightened. "Tell me. We tell your story." "What?" "Not just to the cops. Not in some sealed file that disappears. We go public. Interviews, press, maybe even a podcast. We control the narrative. They can't erase you if the world already knows your name." Maya swallowed. "You think people will care?" Marcus stepped closer. "They'll care because you didn't let bitterness eat you alive. You saved a kid, and you still showed up." Maya looked down, then back up. "What if they come harder?" Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out the patch. It wasn't official, not yet, but it was black and silver, with a small winged emblem. "Then they come through all of us." She took the patch slowly, ran her fingers over it. "I'm in," she said. Outside, the rain returned. But this time, it didn't feel like a storm. It felt like a cleansing. The makeshift recording studio was in the back of Rosie's diner, wedged between a disused pantry and a forgotten broom closet. Marcus and Tank had spent the better part of 2 days soundproofing it with egg cartons, foam squares, and an old mattress cover donated by the clubhouse. It smelled faintly of coffee, grease, and vinyl, a strange combination, but oddly comforting to Maya as she stepped inside. A small mic stood on the table. Behind it, a laptop already recording. Tank gave her a thumbs up from behind the camera. "We'll clean it up later. Just talk like you're telling a friend." Maya sat down slowly. Her palms were sweaty, heart pounding hard enough she could hear it in her ears. She took a sip from the chipped Rosie's coffee mug and leaned toward the mic. "Okay," she whispered, then louder. My name is Maya Brown, and for a long time, I didn't think my story mattered. She paused, cleared her throat. I was born Maya Colburn, daughter of Judge Raymond Colburn, yeah, that Judge Colburn. The one who used to give speeches about justice and community and values. But behind closed doors, he was just a man who didn't want a reminder of his past. After my mom died, he sent me away. Said I needed better care. I think I reminded him too much of her. She exhaled. I grew up in the system. Moved between houses that didn't want me, didn't feed me, didn't see me. I learned how to keep quiet. How to hide bruises, how to survive. Maya's voice was steady now, measured. But I never forgot who I was, or what I deserved, even when they called me a thief, even when I was sleeping behind a dumpster last month. She looked into the camera now, eyes clear, and then something happened. She recounted the day on the street, how Emma collapsed, how Maya ran to help, how Marcus kicked her, how she didn't stop, how saving that child made her feel more human than anything else had in years. He thought I was hurting her, she said, voice soft. But I wasn't. I was doing what I wished someone had done for me. With Tax's worko, Tank stepped from behind the camera and laid a hand on her shoulder. That's it. That's the heart. Marcus, standing in the doorway, nodded. We'll edit it. Push it out through our channels. Radio. Online. Doesn't need to go viral. Just needs to live somewhere. Unerasable. The video launched 2 days later. No hashtags. No marketing push. Just the raw story of a woman who refused to stay invisible. It didn't explode overnight, but it didn't need to. Word of mouth carried it. People started to share. A local podcaster picked it up. Then a journalist who covered foster care systems. By the end of the week, Maya's face had been seen by over 12,000 people. By the second week, that number doubled. But with visibility came exposure. One morning, Maya opened her inbox to find a single email with the subject line, "You should have stayed in the dark." Attached was a blurry photo, her sleeping on the fire escape weeks ago. The timestamp matched the day she'd first spotted the black SUV. She showed Marcus immediately. "They're escalating," he muttered. Tank leaned over his shoulder. "We go knock on doors?" "No," Maya said. "We keep doing what we're doing." But smarter. Still, precautions were put in place. Cameras outside the dry cleaners, a burner phone for emergencies. Emma's hospital visits were rescheduled, and Marcus began walking Maya to and from the studio every evening. Despite it all, Maya refused to hide. She kept recording. Episode 2 was about her first foster home, the bruises, the nights locked in the basement. Episode 3 was about being 16 and homeless. Episode 4 was the hardest, saying goodbye to her sister Naomi, who was sent to another state and never came back. Each story chipped away at the silence that once bound her life. Each story struck a chord with someone new. And soon, someone responded. It was a Tuesday when Marcus got the call. An unknown number. He almost ignored it. "Hello?" A woman's voice. Tense. Familiar. "Is this Marcus Shaw?" "Yeah. You don't know me," she said quickly. "But I know Maya. Or I did. My name's Patrice. I was Naomi's roommate in a group home in Iowa. She talked about Maya all the time. Said if anything ever happened to her, she needed to find her sister." Marcus froze. "She disappeared 3 years ago," the woman said. "We think someone came for her. Someone who wanted her quiet." Marcus's pulse surged. "Why now?" "Because I saw Maya's video. I know her voice. I think they're coming for her next." By the end of the night, the clubhouse was full. All hands on deck. Marcus shared the call. Tank pulled up Naomi's last known placement records. Ricky ran surveillance checks on Claymore Group and their contracts with the state. Maya stood in the middle, heart pounding. Naomi was alive. Or had been. And now the same people might be circling back to silence her too. "I have to find her," Maya said. "You're not doing it alone," Marcus replied. "No," she said. "We're doing it loud." And the club agreed. No more shadows, no more fear. Only light and the roar of engines behind it. The war room was alive with tension. Maps, printouts, and taped-up photos covered the walls of the garage like a detective's caseboard. Tank stood over a laptop, muttering to himself, while Ricky scribbled notes across a whiteboard. that had been salvaged from a closing community college. In the corner, Maya sat beside Marcus, both staring at a printed intake report for Naomi Colburn dated 4 years ago.